Dato's got a company which actually helps people make that process reality. So that's what he's going to present to you today. He's going to take about 10 minutes to talk to you about that, and then we're going to give you an opportunity for questions, and we're going to go as much as about that. So
ready up? Okay, hi all. Yeah, thanks for having me here. Like as I was introduced, name is Dato. Founder and director of a company called US Property Investment Wholesalers. A bit of a mouthful. We've been in business for about 3 years. We're local. We're on Gillis Street. So I'll try to keep things quite short. And then if you have any questions, welcome to it. Okay. So look, I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you guys about today. And what I sort of came up with is this: there's a lot of people, I'm assuming, heard that there is this thing called US foreclosures, and they're cheap and you can do something with them. Is that about? No? Yeah, okay, cool. So there is a lot to know, so in the space of time, can't tell you everything you guys need to know, but what I'll do is I'll give you a basic, absolute process that if you personally wanted to go about finding a property in yourself, and you didn't want to go through the company or whatever that may be, you wanted to do the whole thing yourself, which happens. I know quite a lot of people that did that. This is the process to go about it. It's actually quite simple. It's common sense, but as we know, common sense is not that common, so I've seen all sorts of stuff happen. So, is everybody okay with that? Yeah? Okay, great. First things first. Let's say, you go, all right, I want to think about US. I'd like to get a property maybe later on. What do? First things first, research, right? I found that it really helps in general decision making to be aware of what is happening in the world in general. So, flow of money around the world. China buying our minerals, China buying a lot of bonds from US. All of those things are important to know in general decision. Let's say you go, okay, look, I'm happy with how the whole thing is going. US, sounds good, great. State, there's 52 of them. Where do you go, right? If you start, and I'm quite pedantic with certain things, if you wanted to do proper research on 52 states, it will be basically your life over. You can't do it. So generally what happens is people hear things. They go, okay, look, uncle of my nephew, of my sister has a property over there, he's happy, maybe. So there's all these options. A lot of people went to Florida, Georgia, Atlanta is very, very hot right now. People were thinking Las Vegas because, one industry, gambling industry. So Detroit, fantastic, you've got to be very careful with what you're doing over there. What do? So, let's say you heard things, you did a little research, you go, I pick the state now. Great. Pick a city. Same again, research. And after you've done that, pick a suburb. Now, this is an important point. There is a big difference between Australia and US. Very careful with a suburb that you pick and the street, right? Quick story, I guess. One of my, not my actually clients, but somebody that I have on database and I had a chat to. Turns out he actually bought a property in LA. Got a property manager, and first rent was paid, and then as he figured out later, actual gang moved in to his house. Right? So the property manager shows up. We're not going to get into the details of what happened, but basically called the investor later on. He said, look, dude, can't help you. Scared to go over there. Do whatever you want with it. Alright? So be careful with the suburb. Now, let's say you've done the suburb. You picked it, you go, great, I'm happy. Now what? Well, takes minimization structures and asset protection structures. Paramount. US is a litigious society. You want to be as protected as you possibly can. And another thing is, in terms of the mentality of the Americans. Now, I'm not sure. Does anybody know what is the actual term the IRS, which is the ATO, tax department, uses towards anybody that buys US properties through the locally organized company. Does anybody know him? You guys are foreign aliens. Okay, it's not good enough that you're an alien, you're also foreign. So it does help to be as American as you possibly can. So when you set up the corporation that will acquire the property, that gives you asset protection. Okay, so not you, and I've seen it done before, people buy it in their personal names, I'm assuming you guys know. So look, generally LLC, limited liability company, owns a property. If something goes wrong, basically it doesn't touch any of your personal assets. Mind you, insert disclaimer here. If anybody's thinking that they're getting personal advice rather than general, out of the room. Not giving personal advice. So let's say you've done all that, you found also a tax professional. Most of the accountants, I have a great respect for accountants, but unless they know what they're talking about in terms of suburb research and are versed in a tax treaty, you guys know there's a tax treaty or not so much? There is a tax treaty between Australia and US. So whatever the tax that you pay in US, if you've done the right things, it basically will count towards your marginal tax rate here. So you sort of don't pay double tax. So once you've done that, and you have your limited liability corp, what do? You want to acquire the property. You find somebody on the ground that is actually willing to deal with you. And trust me, you are a foreign alien, and they're scared of you. They don't know who you are, they don't know what you represent, all that kind of stuff. So finding a person that's willing to deal with you is hard enough. Let's say you found them. You go, great. Let's, how about this property? So you found the property, a basic step, due diligence, right? Pest report, building report, finding out what the property is. If you're buying it from an auction or whatever, sometimes you can't even go in the property. You basically buy a cat in a bag and just hope for the best. Now, there are a lot of issues with buying the property like that, and I'll give you one major one. What happens is back taxes. There is a thing in US where a house can acquire a person that lived in there previously their debts, which is impossible in Australia. Conveyancers will look after that for you. So let's say I was a bad tenant. I didn't pay council. I didn't pay the plumber, and they put liens, back taxes on it. They took the keys back into the bank in terms of their foreclosure. Bank said, okay, now we sell it. Give us cash. We'll sell it to you. You acquire all the debt that might come with the property. So, you heard of those cases, properties going for $1, like 2 or 3 years ago? Yeah, that's what you get. So you get a worst case scenario sometimes, 10-15 grand debt, you get a terrible suburb, you get a huge amount of damage, so you have to spend another 10, 15, maybe 20K on the property, and then you can't actually get anybody to move in. And then you end up with holding that asset, and local council is basically onto you because the grass is too tall and you have to cut it. By the way, you get fines in US for that as well, or whatever that might be. So instead of it being positive cash flow investment, it does the same thing as negative gear properties do in Australia, lose your money. So the reason why most people go with the US is because they want to make money. So if you do the right things, great. You can get we specialize in properties that get 10% positive net yield. That's after expenses like insurance, council rates, maintenance, property management. After all of that, 10%. At best, Australian properties maybe 3-4% if you're lucky. Maybe you're losing money. All right. So let's say you've done all that. You have the property. You did your You did your renovations. You found the lawyer, you settled on it. Find somebody else to renovate for you. Now, has anybody renovated here in the room or properties yet? Great. Hard enough to do it here? Imagine doing it remote control. So what materials they're buying. Are they buying more than they need? Are they actually doing the work? Or maybe they just took the money and moved away. You don't know any of that. So let's say you pass through that as well. All that is done and dusted, and you have a fantastic property, you renovate it, you go, yes, time to make some money. You found the property management, and this is the key, and I think I'm doing quite well on time. The key is this: the whole thing is a chain. We all know that chain is as strong as the weakest link, and property management, I don't know what experiences you guys had with Australia, if anybody. Do we have actually investors in the room? Could we raise hands? Yeah, great. Property management, anybody experienced issues? Right, okay. US is even worse. Okay, so unless you have somebody like that you know and you have a good gut feeling about it, and it's a big company or whatever that may be, don't do it, because you will end up with a property that you can't rent, or you looked at the numbers and the return was amazing. Oh my God, look at it, it's a 20% net return, and then if you don't get anybody in the house, what's the point? And there's a lot of that happening. 8 months, I can't get anybody in. What's the point? The point is to make money, not to lose money. So with the property management, then it's easy. Then you just set up the structures to convert your currency, having the whole process, and then you're done and dusted. You basically just watch, the money comes through. Hopefully all is well, and that's the fairy tale story of no problems whatsoever. So this is, in conclusion, basically, this is what you do if you want to do it remote control. There is another option, going over there and doing the whole thing yourself if you have 2 or 3 months, right? If you don't want to do that, deal with a company. The only thing that I can say about my company is, knowing all those things that are happening, we're quite unique in comparison to everybody in Australia that I'm aware of. I mean, there could be some that I'm not. But what we've decided to do is we decided to counteract all those issues by running a rent-to-own program. What that does, it gives you a high-quality tenant, because people that are planning to buy the house, they generally care about it a little bit more, give you less maintenance because they're covering their own damage. And also one of the, interesting tidbits in US is there is a different way that they deal with credit rating. Here in Australia, in case you guys are not aware, if you get a bad credit rating, it will sit right here until the day you die. You can't wash it off. In US, you can. If you've been doing bad things and you get a bad credit rating, you start doing good things, it will fix it yourself. So the way that we designed our program, that we made it, because humans, same motivations everywhere. So we made it is in the benefit of the tenant to actually pay you rent on time. Think about it. It's in their benefit to pay you rent on time, because then they fix their credit rating if it wasn't that good to start with, so they can actually go to the bank and bank will lend them, right? So basically those kind of bits and pieces. Sorry if I went like maybe 4 minutes over time, but I'll finish up here. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Did you bring some cards in there?
Yeah, we've got some brochures. Have a chat to my the guys that sit behind you, smiling and raising the hand.
Hello, everybody.
Right, so you're saying your company does all of that instead of us? Or
Yeah.
does his do all that?
No, well, it depends. If you want, you can. If you want to deal with a company and don't want any hassle, do that as well. By the way, the properties range in general from around the States, just to give you a good idea, without too many issues, between 40 to 100K. That's still cheap, right? So we have some properties as low as 30, and still our whole process applies. And we do full turnkey. So basically we say, this is what it is, and then there's closing costs, probably about 4%, which is like conveyances fees, about $1,000 or so, and that's it, you're done.
What's your fee?
Yeah, look, as I said, about 10% net return. So rents are low because the properties are low. So on that maybe $30,000, $40,000 rent, you'll get $500-600 a month. $3.9, and usually it's included within the whole package. So when I say full turnkey, this is what you get. Everything is included inside. Try to make it as easy as possible. What sort of what? Well, that obviously depends on the cost that you bought for the house at, and also there is two different ways. Either you can, as an investor, you can choose to have a set amount, and this is something that we're going to negotiate on the tenant on your behalf, or the actual market value of the house. So it's your choice, really, what you want to do. If you think that your calculations and your know-how is good, you can pick both. If you want to know exactly what your capital return is going to be because the price is set, do that. If not, do something else. Basically your choice.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to break for but before we go, this is just such a great example. I know, for example, there's two people at the moment who are friends of my daughters who are buying properties in America. Now they've rung me and asked me now, there's no way in the world I'm ever going to know or interested in knowing what Dato knows. It's too complicated and it's too specific. But I now know that I can ring both these characters and say, look, here's a company, and I will check Dato out some more, I'll give him a ring.
Please do.
And that's what you need to do. You need to build up a stable of people for when circumstances come up, and you also need to keep control of what you're doing. Find companies and people who you trust and can value to help you broaden your base. Does that make you look better in the long run? So I really appreciate you coming here. And so if people could, if you've got questions, Dato will be having to stay for a while.
Sure.
Go for lunch, be back at 1 o'clock, and if we can just thank Dato and his team for coming.